10 common mistakes of new poker players. Hello guys, this is Cardmates. Let's face it, poker is a tough game to consistently win at. Players are better these days, even in low-limit games. And if you don't have a good strategy, good game selection, and some reasonable tilt control, then you will probably struggle to win. However, having coached hundreds of poker students in the past, one thing I noticed is that many beginners in particular actually beat themselves. That is, they shoot themselves in the foot and ruin their results with a variety of rookie or amateur mistakes. So in this article, I'm gonna break it down for you. There are the top 10 most common ways that poker beginners beat themselves at the poker tables. 1. No patience. Expect to win big right away. One of the most common ways that new poker players beat themselves is expecting to win right away. Many of them figure that after a week they should be raking in the big bucks. But unfortunately, this just isn't the way that the game works. And quite frankly, when you are brand new to poker and still trying to figure out how to play a tight and aggressive strategy, you probably will lose. You wouldn't jump into a game of Fortnite, for example, having never played before, and expect to win right away. No, of course not. You will probably be one of the first ones to get eliminated. The same goes with poker. You had to take it slow at the beginning, and you should expect to learn some tough lessons in the early going versus more experienced players. 2. Do not understand the true nature of variance. Variance is the technical term that we use in poker to describe the routine ups and downs that are built into a game like poker, which has a large short-term luck element. Many poker beginners are shocked to learn that you can actually run bet, get unlucky in poker for weeks and sometimes even months on end. And what's more is that there is absolutely nothing that you can do to make it stop. It is important to understand that only results over a period of months or years mean anything to a poker pro though. It is only amateurs that worry about day-to-day or week-to-week results in poker. And this is because they fail to understand the true nature of variance in this game. Many people choose to let this destroy their entire poker career, and they can never win because of it. Don't let this be you. Poker is and always will be a long-term game. 3. Failing to value bet. One of the biggest ways that poker beginners commonly beat themselves is by failing to value bet at the lower limits. What is a value bet? A value bet is simply a bet that you make in poker when you believe that it is likely that you are ahead in the hand. For example, you have Ace-King of Hearts and the flop come Ace-10-4. The chances are very high that you have the best hand in this scenario. However, many poker beginners fail to make a value bet in a situation like this because they don't want to scare their opponent away, or they bet way too small and simply do not get enough value. Often this is because they saw one of their poker heroes like Daniel Negreanu or Phil Hellmuth do this on TV. What they don't understand, though, is that these are world-class professional poker players playing against other world-class pros in high-stakes poker games. The poker strategy that they use has absolutely no correlation with the strategy that you should be using in your $10 games online or your local $1-2 poker game at the casino. Failure to consistently value bet against all the calling stations in low-limit games is one of the absolutely biggest ways that poker beginners destroy their winnings. 4. Overthinking and studying too much. The next way that poker beginners shoot themselves in the foot is by overthinking the game way too much and studying every advanced theory out there. As I have mentioned before, it is much better when you are first learning the game to keep everything as simply as humanly possible. Just learn one simple poker strategy, and if anyone tells you that you need to know something like GTO or study solvers, please for the love of God do not listen to these people. You do not need to know the advanced math or study AI poker simulations in order to beat a bunch of beginners at NL2 or some drunk tourist in your local $1-2 cash game. I never studied any advanced poker math or used AI poker simulations in order to win obscene amounts of money in these games. Keep it simple at the micros and you will win. 5. Playing underrolled. The next way that poker beginners ruin their progress is a classic one. They simply don't have the bankroll to play at the stake that they do. This goes hand in hand with not respecting the power of variance in poker, which I already mentioned above. Here's the reality of poker that most people won't tell you. Even very good winning poker players can lose sometimes for weeks or even months on end through no fault of their own. I have seen it time and time again throughout my own poker career with other people, and it has happened to me countless times as well. This is why I suggest that you have a bare minimum of 30 buy-ins for your stake if you play cash games, or 100 buy-ins if you play tournaments. A buy-in, by the way, is the maximum amount that you can bring to the table in a cash game, which is usually 100 big blinds, or the average stake you play in tournaments. For much more on bankroll, check out my complete guide to poker bankroll management. 6. Not learning how to grind. Back when I first learned how to play poker, 15 plus years ago, we simply did not have the vast amount of poker training resources that are available today. So for somebody like me, the only real option I had in order to improve was to learn how to grind. And what I mean by the grind is that you literally sleep at the poker tables. I played so many hands in the first few years of my poker career that I often got accused of being a bot online, and people questioned whether I was a real human being. I'm not saying that you have to play poker 12-14 hours a day like I did, but I do feel that many people these days have lost the ability to just simply put on their hard hat and grind. Many of them sit around talking about the game and poker forums, or Reddit, or watching somebody else play poker on Twitch or YouTube. Now, don't get me wrong. There is nothing inherently wrong with any of these things. But if your goal is to improve and win big in poker, this should be kept to a bare minimum. All of the best poker players I know have played way more poker than everybody else. This is not a coincidence, by the way. They learned through direct experience like I did, played 10 million hands of poker like I have, and I absolutely promise that you will be a much, much stronger player. Heck, even just play 1 million hands of poker. It is shocking to me how few people these days have even played this amount. While a million hands of poker might sound like a lot, most full-time online poker pros who multi-table will easily play this many hands in 1 year. 7. Moving up the stakes too fast. Then I always recommend that you start at the very lowest stakes, no matter how good you think your skill level is or how small the money seems to you. Because if you can't figure out how to beat the $5 games, then there is no way on earth that you are going to beat the $50 games. Many poker beginners struggle with this bizarre idea that if they play at higher stakes, where players respect their raises and are easier to read, then they will finally start winning. This is completely illogical, though, because poker players always get better as you move up the stakes, i.e. smarter, more skilled and tougher to beat. So if you can't learn how to beat all the wild players in the $5 games, then you will never stand a chance of beating the much better skilled opponents that you will face in the $50 or $500 games. This is something that Daniel Negreanu actually talks about in his poker training course. Do not fall for the common poker beginner float thinking that higher stakes games are easier to beat. Not only is this completely illogical, but it also just isn't true at all. 8. Not studying their poker hands. One of the number one ways that I finally learned how to start playing better poker is by relentlessly studying my own poker hands. I would often study my own hands, and still do, after every session, win or lose. This is exactly what professional athletes do when they study the game film. So why shouldn't you do this as a serious poker player as well? You need to start learning from your own mistakes if you want to get better at poker. And the best way to do this is to study your biggest winning and losing hands in a program like Poker Tracker. If you play live, then start taking notes on your phone and think through these hands later or discuss them with other strong players. The bottom line is that if you take power seriously and you want to improve, then you need to start putting in the work away from the tables as well. All poker pros already know this and study their poker hands regularly. 9. Playing in bad games. One of the biggest poker skills these days is learning how to game select and table select. This means finding the bad players to play against. Because honestly, it doesn't matter how good you are. If you consistently play in tough poker games full of other strong players, you will not win big. Period. Therefore, it is your job these days as a serious poker player to scout any game before you sit down to play in it. There needs to be at least one bad player who is playing too many hands, chasing every draw and so on. It still surprises me just how few poker players actually do this, even much more experienced ones. You wouldn't just randomly invest in a stock or cryptocurrency you have never heard of, right? No, of course not. You would learn more about the company or the history of the cryptocurrency, study past earnings reports, learn who is on the board of the company or the coin, their vision, and so on. A poker table is the exact same thing. It is a profitable or not so profitable investment opportunity depending on which one you choose. Do your homework before you sit down to play at a poker table. This is a crucial skill that you must have in today's games if you really want to be a winning player. I have already written the most comprehensive guide to poker table selection, available on the internet today. 10. Not having a quitting strategy. The final way that poker beginners ruin their results is by not having an effective quitting strategy. Now, what does this even mean? It means that after you lose a set amount, you will step away from the poker tables no matter what. We also call this a stop loss in poker. The reason why using a stop loss is so important is because it prevents you from playing poker when you are heavily tilted and making very poor emotionally based decisions. This is quite literally the death of so many poker careers. I have seen it time and time again. They literally just throw all of these profits away when the cards inevitably go south on them. This is why for beginners I suggest using a 3 buy-in stop-loss strategy. If you lose 3 buy-ins, then you quit for the day no matter what. Once again, a buy-in is typically 100 big blinds in a cash game or the entrance fee if you play tournaments. So if you are playing the 2-cent, 5-cent blind cash games online, for example, then 3 buy-ins would be $15. Final thoughts. So these are the top 10 ways that poker beginners beat themselves in my opinion. They are in no particular order. In fact, tilt is definitely number 1 in my opinion, even though I saved it for the very end. Make sure you have a plan or a stop-loss strategy for when the cards inevitably go sour on you. Other ways that poker beginners routinely beat themselves though are not having a big enough bankroll, expecting to win right away, and overthinking the game too much. They also fail to play enough poker, don't study their hands in order to learn from their mistakes, and try to move up the stakes too fast. If you are a poker beginner yourself, hopefully a few of the tips on this list will help you from making these same mistakes yourself. Let me know in the comments how you think poker beginners beat themselves. Did I miss anything important on this list?